नमस्कार मंडळी, वेलकम बॅक टू टेक मंच एपिसोड नंबर 2ला. आज आपल्याबरोबर एक खूप स्पेशल गेस्ट आहेत. ही इज अ रिअली गुड फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन. बऱ्याच वर्षांपासून बरेच म्हणजे सुद्धा आहे, अजून आता ऑलमोस्ट 10 years ॲट दिस पॉईंट. सो इट्स अ रिअली गुड feeling to have him on this podcast. He is by profession a data engineer, if I'm not wrong, and he is by hobby a coffee enthusiast. So please welcome Sujay.
Hey, hi, man. What's up, dude?
थँक्यू. हा ऑकवर्ड वेलकम बद्दल धन्यवाद. आज आपल्या रॉस्टरवरती आय थिंक एक सेकंद आहे, 1 2 3 4 5 6 इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक्स आहेत. सो विल गो थ्रू ऑल ऑफ देम जस्ट टू मेक दी लिसनर्स क्लिअर. वी विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट ChatGPT बिकॉज एव्हरीबडी इज आता आणि ते बोललं नाही तर मजा नाही. But we'll be talking about an interesting conversation about ChatGPT, which is the fear of such AI ML tools replacing humans. त्यानंतर we'll talk about my experience with Android 13, जे latest version of Android आहे, as well as some gripes I have with it. We will also talk about operating system कशी बनती and how can we make Android better, जे तू आपल्याला इन्साइट देणार आहेस त्या बाबतीत. विच इज बाय द वे इट्स अ रिअली इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक फॉर लिसनर्स अँड वॉचर्स. सो डेफिनेटली स्टे ट्यून्ड फॉर दॅट. अँड देन विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट द लेटेस्ट फ्रेमवर्क लॅपटॉप. फ्रेमवर्क लॅपटॉप काय आहे हे पण कळेलच तुम्हाला, बट इट्स अ रिअली गुड डिव्हाइस. लवकरच इंडियामध्ये सुद्धा येतील ते. सो आय एम रिअली एक्सायटेड फॉर दॅट. अँड फायनली मागच्या वेळी माझा आणि कल्पेशच्या या संदर्भात बोलणं झालेलं होतं, टेक चॉईसेस. पण विल बी डेल्विंग अ बिट डीपर इन टू दी स्पेसिफिक कॉन्व्हर्सेशन ऑफ टेक चॉईसेस अँड दी एन्व्हायरमेंट आणि हाऊ कॉम्पिटिशन वगैरेचा निगेटिव्ह इम्पॅक्ट होऊ शकतो वगैरे. सो स्टे ट्यून फॉर दॅट एज वेल. So those are the main 6 topics for today. The rest will be having some secondary topics that we can talk about if we have time to do so. Anyway, let us start with the first and most important topic, which is ChatGPT and the fear of human replacement. So, Sujay, I'm assuming की तुला ChatGPT काय आहे माहिती आहे.
Well, I have an idea, okay? I haven't been someone who has, developed ChatGPT, obviously. So,
Understandable.
Yeah, I think it's like by application, it's an amazing thing. People have been working on this for a long period, okay?
Yeah.
And when this thing arrived, a lot of a few people were literally shocked. The reason is ki, it's literally like something which many researchers have been working on since way too long time, and getting that thing right or anyway. But yeah, this is phenomenal. The part where it actually got implemented, but I feel there's a huge space when it comes to the overall existence of ChatGPT.
So for context for the audience, I'll explain की ChatGPT काय आहे exactly, just so that we can in as simple terms as possible. कारण मला स्वतःला बराच वेळ गेला to exactly pinpoint what it is. So in the most broadest of terms, it is essentially a chatbot, right? But what it does is why it's a different kind of chatbot is that it has its own database. ChatGPT is developed by OpenAI, which is supposed to be an open research group or organization that is researching AI. So वेगवेगळ्या forms of AI, whether it is conversational AI, whether it is image generative, basically any form of generative AI where you are generating something. तर त्यासाठी ChatGPT काय करतं, it draws from a database of a large sort of number of sources. त्याला त्यामुळे लार्ज लँग्वेज मॉडेल म्हणतात, LLM. आणि ChatGPT has taken, as Sujay rightfully said, it has taken the world by storm because it has a very intuitive sort of uh, result that it gives out, the output that it puts out. It is very intuitive, and the way you talk to it is also pretty cool. Now, the problem that comes with something like this is the same problem that has existed for well over, I guess, what, a few decades at this point. The day since industrial automation पहिल्यांदा सीनवरती आला किंवा इन जनरल एनी फॉर्म ऑफ ऑटोमेशन ऑटोमेट करणं कोणतीही गोष्ट ही ज्या दिवसापासून इंडस्ट्रीमध्ये आली त्या दिवसापासून हे कॉन्व्हर्सेशन आहे विच इज की इफ आय पुट इन समथिंग लाईक से मला आर्टिकल लिहून दे ऑन दिस पर्टिक्युलर टॉपिक आणि मी जरा टोन सेट केला मी म्हटलं की या टोनमध्ये लिही हे पॉईंट्स मेन्शन कर आणि हे प्रोज अँड कॉन्स मेन्शन कर असं मीच इन्फॉर्मेशन दिली तर ChatGPT कॅन put out a really good article. I won't say it's the best because at the end of the day, it is drawing from sources. It's not original. It is like plagiarism check केला तर 100% unique म्हणून दाखवतो ते. But that's mostly because it draws from so many sources that there's no one source that it can pinpoint. आणि I think Sujay सांगू शकेलच की plagiarism check मध्ये
Yes.
okay, wait. Actually, let us test. What is plagiarism check? Just to be clear.
Well, plagiarism check when it comes to that. Let's take an example, simple example. Okay.
Sure.
We write articles, we write blogs. So if I want ChatGPT to write some article, or let's say essay, if I want to do that, and if I find any relevance of that specific essay with any essay that has been written or published, and it has some uh, forms of rights or violations that can be added if you like copy that work, yeah, you're doomed. Yeah. So it's literally that. Okay, so we cannot trust the source, as you said before. We cannot trust the source. The reason behind this is actually the ChatGPT was originally developed using some good amount of training data. So data is basically basically some people, normal people, kind of responding to questions that researchers provided them, or those kind of things. But the issue is that you cannot trust that data. Okay, I mean, yeah, sure, so many users responded with so many, might be something, some question which asks like, is this positive or negative, or everyone's mindset is different, and everyone's yeah. So that data is, while amazing and experimentally nice, but it's not something we can depend on or use as a source, right? So that's the reason, we, as you said, plagiarism check, right? They have been for quite a while, and actually we even tried, like, I've been working on some of my own research since a while, and we kind of thought like, we write research papers at times, a few copies, so I tried to write a sample page, and try to check it with plagiarism checker, kind of two forms. Okay, actually one was something I wrote myself by copying from different sources, and the second one was something generated by ChatGPT. I specified some relevant topics, and when I checked that through the Turnitin, if you know it, I don't know, there's this plagiarism checker. It's like kind of a standard in publications world. So I tried to do that, and amazingly, the one I wrote had a lot of plagiarism, obviously. But the one with the one I tried with ChatGPT had literally like 7% plagiarism, and that's like way low, right? 93% originality is beyond expectations, right? So
Wow.
uh, yeah. So that's something ChatGPT can do. Okay, by the way, don't misuse it, guys.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just I'm
Absolutely
just
not.
yeah, I was just experimenting a little bit. But yeah, that's the magic ChatGPT does. But again, as I said before, we don't know the source. And
Yeah,
the amazing thing about, as you said, chatbots, right? So
yeah.
if there's a framework, right? Rasa conversational AI is it's a very famous chatbot development, let's say tech.
Interesting.
Okay, so
Mhm.
they had specified 5 levels of conversational AI or chatbots, and the the part where ChatGPT comes in is the fifth level,
Mhm.
and that's like the last level of chatbot development, which even
Right.
most developers haven't been able to reach at all. Okay, like
Yeah.
that was a jump. Okay, so I don't want to dive in too deep here, but this is because the chatbots, as are for our conversations, they used to be
Yeah.
based upon some context, right? Like we are speaking, we are
Mhm.
chatting.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking about some topic, right? I'm speaking about, let's say,
Yeah.
ChatGPT. That is a context, right? That's the
Yes.
relevant context that a chatbot should refer to.
Yeah.
But in case of ChatGPT, they are direct adaptive agents. So while they rely on context, but that context cannot be
Hmm.
relied, if you know what I mean.
Okay,
Yeah,
wait,
so
wait. That's a very heavy thing. Wait, wait. The
yeah,
the context cannot be relied upon, even though you can rely on the context.
yeah, so
No,
so
wait.
let me explain. Okay,
Ha, please, please.
so the
I'm
context.
complete bouncer right now.
Yes, I'm really sorry, guys, but this is really important to understand, right? to
Yeah.
to know the difference why ChatGPT is something ambiguous yet.
Yeah.
So it's the context is basically some information that these chatbots rely on. Always, like
Yeah.
whenever some guy develops a chatbot, that has to have some data, right? It cannot just like come out of some scratch thing and start talking to you like a human.
That is
So
correct.
yeah, so that information is basically what I'm referring to as context.
I
So
see.
it's like ChatGPT does rely on that context, that information. Obviously, it was trained upon that, but the
Yeah.
but the issue is that information is something we cannot rely on. It's not legit. We don't know where it is coming from or what sources
Hmm.
it is based upon.
Yeah. Okay, now this
Hmm.
makes a lot more sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
This actually brings forth this really interesting topic, which is recently Microsoft, because Microsoft has a very large investment in OpenAI, right?
Yes.
So what OpenAI is doing is all of their work is being done through Azure servers, Microsoft's Azure servers.
Hmm.
So the recent thing was Bing मध्ये they kind of introduced ChatGPT, like to make search easier. And while the idea of typing in something and getting a proper answer from the search engine is the perfect evolution of a search engine, right? Instead of giving you a billion different results, it now creates a concise thing. But the problem, going off of your point, is that you don't know if the source that it is drawing from is credible. So, like the
Correct.
easiest thing, because this is tech muncher, I will take an example of, say, माझ्याकडे इथं पोको M2 Pro आहे, हा माझा फोन
Ah.
आहे. It has an okay processor, it has a good camera system, it's fine. As a budget phone, it is fine. But you will find a certain amount of people. I mean, in the age of the internet, everything has pro people and against people at this point. So you will find someone who says that. And unfortunately, another side effect of the age of the internet is in search engine. SEO केलं, चांगलं SEO केलं, तर even misinformation or fake information can be pushed to the top of a search result, right? इज दी अर्थ फ्लॅट हे मी टाकलं आणि देव न करो कुठली तरी टॉप साईट जी आहे ती अनफॉर्च्युनेटली इज अ प्रो फ्लॅट अर्थ वेबसाईट, राईट, गिव्हिंग एव्हिडन्स, quote unquote evidence to support their theory. The problem is Bing, if it is truly unbiased, Bing will draw from it. Luckily, there is a certain level of understanding in these companies कि bias जरा सा गरजेचा आहे, I guess. That also has a different conversation entirely about whether or not biased and unbiased information helps. But to complete, like, that is like a separate topic for an entire podcast of whether biased information or unbiased information आपल्याला पाहिजे. We say we want it, but we don't know if we truly are happy with biased information. So yeah, coming back to your topic. So tell me something. आता तू म्हणलास तसं इट इज नॉट अन एंटायरली रिलायबल सोर्स ऑफ इन्फॉर्मेशन, राईट. We can't guarantee that this information that it is pulling from is 100% accurate. Why do you think people are afraid that the chatbot that can't even produce 100% reliable information is probably going to take over their jobs? Why do you think that is?
Well, it's a little dubious actually. I don't know if this is more about media or marketing or anything. But the major reason is because there's this form of data which some businesses use to create some marketing or analytics or a lot of things. Actually, they create some amazing products as well on that basis.
Yeah.
So as we know, like data is worth a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
In this current generation or current world. So ChatGPT is able or capable to create synthetic data. So synthetic or like artificial data, by the way. So we don't know if like what companies are using it or why they are using it. See, I mean, if a company is just producing some game, okay, let's say some game about, I don't know,
Let's take an open world Ben 10 game.
yeah, can be anything. Yeah, that's also fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing, if you want that game to be a little smart for people, okay, so what you can do is maybe use the means of ChatGPT to produce some data or some, like as I said, artificial data that can be used to make models or make whatever software or whatever they create that is dependent on that data. That's something of a good application, I would also say, ethical one actually, by the way.
Yeah.
But again, as I said, key this depends on companies. Now you won't see some financial firm using ChatGPT to make decisions, okay? that
Yeah.
happen, right? It cannot do that. It's nonsense, okay? Because it doesn't know what sources it is relying on, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? So like Silicon Valley Bank, I don't know if they use that or something, I don't know. So for example, I'm just mocking it a little bit, but anyway, so so that's the point, right? I have no idea who is promoting this thing, or we are not at the stage where we can say like, yeah, ChatGPT can take over the world or something. Yes, it is reliable when it comes to getting help, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But again, it is experimental yet, and yes, it can be a concept, an amazing concept if developed using real and legit sources. And for those sources, by the way, to exist, there needs to be a long process, okay? So there needs to be a lot of engineering, a lot of processing to make sure that those sources are reliable. So I mean, yeah, they've created a nice framework, amazing job at that. But yeah, I guess when it comes to real world, I don't think it's still, it'll take over jobs or something yet.
I think another like your point is really valid, but one more like interesting aspect to this, in my opinion, is he. So take for example, आत्ताची current generation जी आहे, we have
Hmm.
shitload of resources, right? So आताची नवीन, maybe our age, maybe a bit younger than us, ही जी नवीन workforce येते आहे, they have a tremendous amount of resources, but the jobs that they are getting initially जे base level चे jobs, they're still for that field that they are applying for, quote unquote clerical, right? like फार मेंदू वापरून करण्याचे jobs नाही आहेत in a certain sense, right? So for example, if I join a company, base package वाले कुठली IT company join केली, तर most of the time, and this is again based on anecdotal experience, you'll probably have some of your anecdotes as well about this, but most of these people are on the bench where they're sitting and maybe uh, reviewing something, or they've been given code to review from the superiors and stuff like that. And reviewing code is basically the same as proofreading for all of the people who are not really tech savvy about code or coding. Reviewing code is the equivalent of proofreading an article where you go through it, grammar check करणं, whether the context makes sense, अजून छोटं करता येईल का, इन्फॉर्मेशन डेन्सिटी वाढवता कमी करता येईल, हे जसं आर्टिकलमध्ये करतो आपण, सेम पद्धतीनं कोडमध्ये केलं जातं टू रिव्ह्यू कोड. तर हे जे जॉब्स आहेत, to a certain extent, again, as you said, experimental, absolutely, like there's a lot of development still going on, but do you think that at some point, some of these lower level jobs might be to a certain extent not take over, that's a very extreme word, but do you think they would start having a larger percentage of supervising, or rather use, because it is a tool at the end of the day? Do you think something like this could happen?
Actually, this question is actually more, important to see on the basis of where we are looking. Okay, for example, in India, as you said, IT companies, those are basically service-based companies,
Yeah.
right? So the issue is that most service-based companies don't want to utilize more than like too many resources. Okay, they only utilize resources to maintain the quality of whatever services they provide, and
Yeah.
they use more people, more workforce, just to make sure that whatever they are producing is of like utmost best quality or something. It's literally like sometimes it, as you said, reviewing code and all. I mean, it's good, people learn from it.
Yeah.
Reviewing code,
True.
is very important to for growth as well, for in the development world.
Yeah.
But the major issue is ki, even if this becomes a tool or something, I don't think
Yeah.
people will, these companies will directly adapt to it, because see, at least for a decade or two,
Yeah.
if these are like enterprise tools, or kind of those kind of tools, I don't think someone would spend so much money on, because they will be for sure too damn costly. Okay, and yeah, so I don't think that would happen anytime sooner. But again, yes, I mean, as you said here, reviewing code and all, these actually,
Yeah.
even in the current world, okay, we have a lot of tools that can do this. Okay, we have
Yeah.
shit ton of tools, testing tools, reviewing tools, which can do this job. Okay, some there are some people who actually sit in
Yeah.
these companies using these tools without using their brains, or like, I'm not like, in any way saying anything,
True.
all I want to say is these people
Yeah.
use these
That is
tools
true.
to do the same job. They don't have to use their brains already. So it's a matter of, say कि यार, uh, at what level you wanna go with that. And I don't think
That is an interesting
companies will
perspective.
at least
And as
not
you
so
said,
soon.
माझ्यासाठी the key takeaway from this part was की
Hmm.
ऑलरेडी कमी मेंदू वापरून काम चालू होतंच. So it's just become a bit easier to use less brain. Basically, that's like that for me is the more appealing part because okay, so this is another
Yeah.
thing that I kind of find interesting about this thing, which is I'm not saying that people will not lose jobs. Obviously, some people will. Maybe a large number of people will. Maybe. I don't know the actual statistics. We will never know until we start seeing it happen, unfortunately. And there are people who study that sort of thing. But what I feel is, as a what can we say, as an intelligent species, as a technology uh, aided species, we will all like that is the natural progression, isn't it? Like, आपण technology in general exists in the first place to make our lives easier. So that is how it started. Like पहिल्यांदा जेव्हा आगीची निर्मिती झाली, निर्मिती नाही,
Yeah.
डिस्कवरी झाली, त्याला काय म्हणतात शोध लागला, आगीचा जेव्हा शोध लागला, तर तेव्हा द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टंट थिंग वॉज त्याचा ॲडव्हान्टेज काय होता तर प्राण्यांपासून आपल्याला सेफ्टी मिळेल, पण यू आर नाव ऑल्सो एबल टू इम्प्रूव्ह युअर लाईफ थ्रू कुकिंग. Then we went to the invention of the wheel that allowed us to not only save our backs by going to a certain place, using easier transportation. Same for vehicle manufacture. पूर्वी हँडमेड होतं सगळं. त्यानंतर मग ह्याच्या हेनरी फोर्डने जेव्हा त्याचं मॉडेल टीची असेंब्ली लाईन केलेली तेव्हा इट वॉज ऑलमोस्ट एंटायरली हँडमेड, राईट? The assembly line. It was a much more streamlined assembly line, but it was still much more manual. Then industrial automation started to kick in, where they started to bring in robotic arms and stuff like that, conveyor belts. ज्यामुळं आपल्याला जे मंडेन काम आहेत, रिपेटेटिव्ह वर्क जे आहे ते कमी करून जास्त स्किल बेस्ड जे वर्क असेल त्यावरती फोकस करता आलं. So the basic thing I'm trying to say here is that at the end of the day, that is the natural progression of a society that uses technology. So while I understand the fear that people have, this fear should only be inhabited by people who are currently in those jobs that are very mundane or something of that sort, where repetitive tasks are there. And I think a large proportion of those people are usually 40 plus or 35 plus, right? In age, especially in India, for example, क्लॅरिकल वर्क जे म्हणतो आपण, कोट ऑन कोट क्लॅरिकल वर्क, अशा केसेसमधल्या लोकांच्या जॉब्सला थोडासा त्यांना भीती ठेवायला काही हरकत नाही आहे. दॅट विल डेफिनेटली बी समथिंग दे शुड थिंक अबाउट. बट आपल्या वयाच्या लोकांनी, आपल्यापेक्षा जरासं कमी किंवा जरासं जास्त वयाच्या लोकांनी ही भीती ठेवणं इज अ व्हेरी like no offense, but it is very stupid in my opinion, because if you think about it, this is the greatest opportunity to upskill.
So but that's the thing, right? As we move forward, we don't know how much, or how many jobs will be required, or what fixed rate of jobs will be required to
Yeah.
make sure that this whole thing works out really well. I mean, it's like people have already started taking its advantages. It's
Yeah.
amazing. There are a few good applications as well, good products as well.
Yeah.
But again, we also have to think about validation of these things, and negative impacts as well.
That is a really good point. Data valid, not even data validation, information validation, source validation. This is like the most.
Yes.
I cannot express. जे लोक ऐकतायत आणि बघतायत, प्लीज 2 सेकंद लक्ष द्या. When you get any piece of information, whatever it is, व्हॉट्सॲपवर फॉरवर्ड केलेला मेसेज, फेसबुकवर पडलेली पोस्ट, काही जे काय असेल, इट इज नॉट अ फॅक्ट अनलेस यू फाइंड समथिंग दॅट सेज दॅट based on proper sources. Also, one more thing is I understand why people are a bit confused, which is कि in today's world, because of the large number of sources, magashi je म्हणलं मी, because of the large number of sources of information stating one or the other thing for or against a particular topic, etc. You can't read, especially for sensitive information or sensitive conversations, discussions like politics, religion, socio-economical discussions, etc. With that, there is a certain level of nuance that is needed, and unfortunately, तू म्हणला तसं मीडिया जी आहे, it will make use of this. It will also not mention sources sometimes, and people really need to learn कि unfortunately it is not the day or it is not the age of believing. Unfortunately, trust is something you have to earn in today's day and age. It has been the same for so long, but in today's, of all times, this is the worst possible time to blindly trust someone or something. So that is where your validation point rings very true. So yeah, that's basically the conclusion of this topic. I wanted to talk about something else, which is and I talk about this because I know you do not have this. Android 13 वापरतोय मी सध्या. So just for a bit of context,
I'm an oldie.
तुझ्याकडं कोणतं वर्जन आहे सांग जरा मला. I'm so sorry.
I don't know what. By the way, for all of our podcast guys, whoever is listening or viewing this, I use Android 9, no, 5.
Not gonna lie, that was a really good version of Android.
Yeah, it was amazing. It is amazing for me right now. Yeah.
I was मी विचारणार होतो की तुझ्याकडं ॲटलिस्ट डबल डिजिट्स मध्ये तरी वर्जन आहे का, बट yeah, it is what it is.
No, dude.
So this is the next topic, which is Android 13 and the progression of Android, right? So specifically तुझ्याबरोबर हे बोलायचं कारण म्हणजे you have Android 9 and there is a large amount of things that people don't understand about Android. So I'll get to my review of Android 13 in a bit. पण एक प्रश्न विचारायचा होता तुला की using Android 9, do you have nearby share?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the reason why I asked this question is because this is kind of like मी मुद्दामा विचारलंय कारण जी लोक म्हणतात की ॲपल 8 वर्ष अपडेट देतो वगैरे, राईट? सो now Android 9, actually nearby share is available from all devices from Android 6 onwards. So that is a total of what? 7 years, approximately 7 years of Android updates, right? Or rather 7 years of availability. Nearby share is like a Android alternative for AirDrop, ज्यामध्ये स्मार्टफोन जे पूर्वी काय नाव होतं बरं, MI शेअर मी एक होतं आणि शेअर काय वापरायचो आपण, त्याचं नाव विसरलो मी. शेअर इट.
Xander, so famous, right? Yeah, share it.
Share it.
Correct.
So back in the old days, there was this thing called share it, जे वापरायचो आपण to share things to each other. Now the thing is, share it was using the Bluetooth to make a sort of handshake, like basically connect the two devices, आणि मग त्यानंतर Wi-Fi through पाठवायचं. Nearby share is that, but baked into the operating system, and it's a really good alternative. आणि in fact, fun fact, आत्ता जस्ट लाईक लिटरली काल ॲज इन ॲट द टाइम ऑफ रेकॉर्डिंग, काल जेव्हा रिलीज होईल, इट्स विल बी लाईक वॉट अ वीक ऑर समथिंग ॲट द टाइम ऑफ रिलीज, Google has released their official beta Windows native application for nearby share. So you can now take your smartphone, share something to your laptop and back using nearby share without using a cable. And I am so happy, man. There is
Nice.
absolute भयानक खुश झालो मी. So yeah, so coming back to the point, tell me something about your experience with Android 9 in terms of usability. आता तुझा स्मार्टफोनचे स्पेक्स आणि त्या मानाने त्याचा एक्सपिरियन्स कसा आहे युजेबिलिटी वाईज?
I guess the usability still stands smooth. Uh, I didn't think that it would, even with the current apps. Okay. So I have like 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage,
Yeah.
and the thing is, ki, as apps like I've been noticing this thing recently, mostly with streaming apps. Uh, as since 2022 or something, those apps have been, I would say, a fuck up. Sorry guys, but but literally, like, they get stuck, especially when, if you take Hotstar for instance, or Prime
Yeah.
Video or anything really. So that's something I've been noticing for a while now. It cannot handle a lot of apps, and I guess, I don't know, what is your opinion on, like, what should be the reason for this?
I think it does come down to a certain level of hardware. So, like for example, there is this thing called DRM, Digital Rights Management or something like that, where basically copyright साठी आहे. So आता जर माझ्या मोबाईलवरती if I open Netflix and I'm watching a movie आणि जर मी स्क्रीनशॉट काढला तर it will show a black screen. आणि दॅट इज व्हॉट DRM डज. हार्डवेअर सपोर्ट लागतो त्याला. और स्ट्रीम करायसाठी इफ यू रिक्वायर समथिंग लाईक HD like 1080p 4K स्ट्रीमिंगसाठी देअर इज अ सर्टन हार्डवेअर रिक्वायरमेंट की तुम्ही जो डेटा त्यांच्या सर्व्हरवर आहे तो त्या फॉर्मॅटमधनं तुमच्या डिव्हाइसला स्ट्रीम करता येईल यासाठी ऑन डिव्हाइस थोडंसं कन्व्हर्जन होतं. आय एम नॉट एंटायरली शुअर अबाउट what exactly the process is, but it exists. So I'm pretty sure that is one of the reasons why एकदम जुन्या devices वरती हा issue आहे. But again, I feel like it would be so much easier for these companies to try and find a way to circumvent this issue and make it compatible on at least Android 10, at least, right? On devices with Android 10. पण आता ते Wildin L1 म्हणून जे सर्टिफिकेशन लागतं फॉर आय थिंक 4K स्ट्रीमिंग, सो नेटिव्ह 4K स्ट्रीमिंग, सो दॅट इज देअर. ॲक्च्युली दिस इज अ बिट ऑफ अ हॉट टेक, पण स्मार्टफोनवरती 1080p इज मोर दॅन सफिशियंट इन माय ओपिनियन.
A lot.
कारण लॉजिकली स्पीकिंग द DPI मॅटर्स मोर दॅन द रेझोल्युशन ऑफ द स्क्रीन. DPI म्हणजे पिक्सेल डेन्सिटी जे डिस्प्ले पिक्सेल्स पर इंच जे असतं. सो बेसिकली एका इंचच्या स्क्वेअरमध्ये किती पिक्सेल्स आहेत तुमच्या स्क्रीनवरती हे तुमच्या स्क्रीनच्या क्वालिटीवर ठरतं. आणि स्क्रीन म्हणजे द इंटरनल स्क्रीन. सो फॉर द पीपल हू आर वॉचिंग समथिंग लाईक से हा जो माझा मोबाईल आहे, सो इन दिस स्क्रीन देअर इज अ सर्टन नंबर ऑफ पिक्सेल्स इन 1 inch square on the screen. That the number of pixels changes based on how good of a screen it is. The more pixels, the better the image. So your viewing experience actually improves even if you have a 1080p resolution screen with a higher DPI. And sorry, not a higher DPI, PPI, pixel per inch. So that is something that is also being ignored by everyone. So to answer your question, I think it is a large issue with hardware support. Not gonna deny that, but ह्या कंपनीजनी to a certain extent, I mean I understand their concern. They want it to work smoothly, experience चांगला पाहिजे यासाठी they want the base minimum requirement to be a bit higher so that a larger number of people can enjoy watching it without a lot of issues. So I get that. So I think that is one of the things. So I guess that answers the issue.
Google has been experimenting a lot, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like a few things are added and removed for no reason at all.
It's funny that you mention experimenting because Google's a dialer जो आहे built-in stock Android साठी जो dialer येतो. I think all smartphones, Android smartphones have this now. सो त्याला फोन चालू असला की पूर्वी कॉन्व्हर्सेशन बबल जशी यायचे फेसबुक मेसेंजरला, तसा एक छोटासा बबल, इफ यू मिनिमाइज इट गोज टू द राईट ऑर द लेफ्ट, आणि इफ यू टॅप ऑन इट यू गेट अ फ्यू ऑप्शन्स, एंड कॉल, हँग, सॉरी होल्ड, म्यूट, आणि आय थिंक ओपन अप और समथिंग लाईक दॅट. सो now it's like iOS where it goes on to the top of the screen. छोटा chip येतो एक असा टॉपला, आणि it is infuriating because the point of the bubble was that I can do something else, tap on the bubble and mute, tap on the bubble or hang up, something like that. Now I have to tap on the chip, it will open the call screen then, and the chip is on top. So again, for reference, this is a phone. When I'm on a call, I'm using it like this. So I don't want to go up here, then tap on the chip and then have to speak. I'd rather have it somewhere at the mid where I tap on it, then get the option. And I don't know why Google does this. And हे सारखं करतात. Every 3-4 months they change the experience. मला मागच्या महिन्यात ते चिप आलं, परत 2 आठवड्यानंतर रेग्युलर बबल आला, परत दुसऱ्या दिवशी अचानक हे आलं. And I'm like, काय आहे? Like I didn't even enroll for the beta, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why this exists. I don't know why Google can't settle on this. In fact, even worse is Google Assistant. Like असिस्टंटला बेसिक गोष्टी इंटरनेटला कनेक्ट केल्याशिवाय करता येत, बेसिक गोष्टी which I don't. I mean, call someone. मी म्हटलं call Sujay.
Yes, totally.
I can't do it because I'm not connected to the.
Totally not.
Like, what is this stupidity?
I guess even opening an app, I don't know if it works now or not. For some good amount of time, I know it still doesn't. Wow, nice. I haven't tried Google Assistant since a long time, by the way.
Good.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So like it never used. It's like I don't understand what is the need here. Why do you need internet, right? I mean, I guess it was dependent on something, previously. I have no idea how Google Assistant, like what it depends on, but I guess it doesn't have its own, hard encoded contexts, I guess. Something we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
Chat.
See, my
stuff,
issue with this thing, which is like they mentioned की voice model जे आहे त्याचा size मोठा असतो, so not all devices can. Then give us the option to download it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, see, if you are shipping an app, right, you should ship something with that, like voice model or whatever the fuck it is. Okay, I mean, the whole point of that application, that product is you ought to be able to use it. So there's no point you have to do it individually or separately. I mean, it's not a world we live in right now. Yeah, there used to be times, we used to download so many. Even to play PUBG, we used to have that file. I don't remember what, but yeah, you used to have
OBB
that.
file hoti, I guess.
I don't think. Yeah. Yes, correct. I don't think that is required in current era, especially with amazing phones, dude. I mean, एवढं रॅम असताना एवढं स्पेस असताना काय, there's no reason to give that reason.
आणि what infuriates me more is आता प्रत्येक डिव्हाइस मध्ये आता MIUI फॉर एक्झाम्पल हॅज अ डिफरंट साईज, 10-12 GB चा सिस्टम आहे. ऑन सॅमसंग इट इज मे बी 30. माझ्या याच्यावरती 20-21 कधी दाखवतं, कधी 10-12 वेगवेगळ्या रॉमच्या साईजवर आणि ह्याच्यावरती असते अवलंबून. माय थिंग इज इफ आय हॅव अ सर्टन अमाऊंट ऑफ डेटा इन, तू म्हणलास तसं वी हॅव बेटर डिव्हाइसेस, सो इट्स नॉट इवन लाईक स्टोरेजचा इश्यू आहे. सो आणि ठीक आहे, समज तुझ्यासारखा मोबाईल आहे ज्याला किती 64 GB इंटरनल स्टोरेज आहे आणि इट हॅज अ लेस अमाऊंट ऑफ रॅम, सो अशा गोष्टी मे बी एक्झिक्यूट करता येणार, मे बी. सो इन दॅट केस ओके, ऑप्शन तर द्या. अँड वी स्टिल हॅव इट. लाईक गुगल पिक्सेलवरती किंवा गुगलचा जो रेकॉर्डर ॲप आहे त्याला यू हॅव दी ऑप्शन टू ट्रान्स्क्रिप्ट व्हॉट यू आर सेइंग. सो मी जर बोलत असताना इफ आय एम स्पीकिंग इन इंग्लिश, It has automatic transcription, and it's a really cool feature. And what they do is they have a really cool way to like separate speakers now. So मी रेकॉर्ड करतो आपलं आणि से आय एम युझिंग द रेकॉर्डर ॲप. सो तू बोलायला लागलास की इट ऑटोमॅटिकली कट्स ऑफ वेअर आय स्टॉप अँड ॲड स्पीकर टू. अँड इट इज सो कूल, कारण की मला सबटायटलिंग करायचं असेल, काय करायचं, इट इज सो ब्युटिफुल. But you need
Actually,
to
it was,
download a voice model for that, and I understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason for that is, like, first of all, that is what we call speaker diarization. Okay, I worked on it for like 1.5
Okay.
years. Okay, that's something I
Wow.
worked on in my research, by the way. So what I want to say is that was actually introduced by Microsoft Teams, actually. Way back, the transcription and even speakers, speaker context, like identifying speakers, as you say, like for
Right.
specific speech intervals. That was way back, and the reason behind that is they use, even those use large language models these days. Okay, they've been relying on a lot of deep learning. The basic form of that speaker diarization relies on not data, actually. It relies on a good amount of speech processing modules, and
I see.
they are heavy as fuck.
Yeah.
So doing that, even in simple programs, we used to face a lot of hurdles with so large models. So I guess the fact that they are managing it right now, that's amazing, to be honest. Even in that minimal space. I mean, I understand from the perspective of a user, it's a little uh, infuriating, as you said, but I guess it'll take some time, and I don't think moving forward, I don't think language models, or any kind of dependencies as such would be an issue. We have good amount of network speeds, a lot of storage, lot of too many resources, really. Okay, so
Yeah.
people have been pushing up lot of their new ideas, new products. Actually, this has existed since like 10 years now. Okay,
Yeah.
in reality, as a concept, and it's like right now that they are pushing it in that, so that you can use it. So that's the thing about it. As we move forward, we'll get these new things, but yes, you will have to face some issues initially.
True. I see my problem with this is I agree. मतलब मी आता बरीच वर्ष बीटा टेस्टिंग वगैरे मध्ये होतो. Like anything I like, I join beta testing for. But even people who are not joining the beta tests are still being subjected to A/B testing. A/B testing म्हणजे for the audience. A/B टेस्टिंग कसं असतं की मी आता एक फीचर रोल आउट करतो. सो से फॉर एक्झाम्पल हाच गुगल रेकॉर्डरचा जो फीचर आहे स्पीकरचा, सो मी सगळ्यांना एकाच वेळी नाही रिलीज करत. इन ऑर्डर टू टेस्ट अ स्मॉल नंबर ऑफ पीपल फर्स्ट, त्यांच्या डिव्हाइसवर कसं चालतो असं हळूहळू वाढवत जातं. सो दॅट इज वर A/B टेस्टिंग कम्स, वेर A इज वन सेट ऑफ डिव्हाइसेस, B इज अनदर सेट ऑफ डिव्हाइसेस, आणि मग A करायच्या आधी Aला काय वाटतंय बघायचं, Bला वेगळ्या पद्धतीने जरा इम्प्लिमेंट करायचं, आणि त्यांच्या ह्याच्यावरनं आपण मर्ज करायचं चांगला काय जे असेल ते. माय प्रॉब्लेम विथ दिस इज this should only exist for people who opted in for beta, right? So even my mom, she has a Moto G60 or 16 or something like that. And she does not have any beta testing. I gave her a Moto because it is stock Android. So for some weird reason, Google is also introducing the beta testing experiments on her device. And that is what infuriates me. कारण it doesn't make sense की मी ऑप्ट इन तरी करू द्यावं. So it is a bit of a problem in that sense.
I guess they can, in simplest terms, rather than introducing just beta testing, or telling that to people, they can introduce some modes, maybe, in a way that people would love to experience the experiments, but on the basis of what they love. Okay, I mean Google has been pushing a lot of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea really. There's a lot.
yeah.
So uh,
They've
in
killed off a
that
lot
way,
of
what
stuff
we
as
can do
well.
is way too many. They've tried, experimented, killed. They've been doing that. Yeah, but the part is like when it comes to stock Android or any
Yeah,
UI or any kind of you know what we can really think about is a way to standardize some modes or something that can help users to decide on like what they want from their phones. It confuses the hell out of people
yeah,
who don't have a single idea what they if they want
yeah.
anything extra on their phones. So it's easier, standardizing that would help people and even companies to decide on what to push and what to not.
That is a very good point actually. Now that I think about it,
Hmm.
simple example, Vivaldi browser मी वापरत होतो कितीतरी वेळ. It had, when you install it and when you're setting it up, it has three modes. It has the standard mode, the default mode. We have a
Hmm.
less like just basic browsing साठीचा mode आहे त्यांचा, and then we have
Correct.
a more enthusiast mode. So Vivaldi has a lot of customization वगैरे. So balanced mode is good browsing, good ad blocking वगैरे वगैरे. बेसिक ब्राउझिंग मोडमध्ये फक्त ॲड ब्लॉकिंग आणि सम बेसिक स्टफ, अँड एन्थुसियास्टमध्ये यू कॅन कस्टमाइज एव्हरीथिंग, मल्टिपल टॅब स्टॅक्स वगैरे.
Exactly.
सो
Exactly.
या, सो युअर पॉईंट मेक सेन्स. फॉर अँड्रॉइड फॉर एक्झाम्पल सेटअप प्रोसेसमध्येच यू कॅन आस्क दी युजर की बाबा व्हॉट काइंड ऑफ
Hmm.
युसेज डू यू यूज युअर स्मार्टफोन फॉर
Yeah.
जस्ट दिस, or do you want a more creative usage of your smartphone?
It takes a simple questionnaire, right? I mean, you don't
Yeah,
have to do a lot.
yeah.
And the thing is, it can even recommend things. Let's say you are a tech enthusiast, okay? So maybe if you like some specific, set of things in tech, maybe you like, speech. Someone likes images, image processing stuff, or someone likes something else. I don't know, artificial intelligence apps or anything really, generative AI, whatever. So they can even define those set of apps, maybe whatever is available to be shipped from through that operating system. That's something that can help a lot of users, and I guess it can
Yeah.
make sense for ease of use. I mean, I don't want my I don't want to have useless apps on my phone for no reason at all. Okay, I don't even
Yeah.
want to experiment. So why would I go? Or even if I want to experiment, I want to experiment with a fixed set of apps which makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know about something else, right? That's something I guess would be great to see.
True. The more I think about your idea, the more new ideas come to mind. Like
Yeah.
सेटअप करताना आता म्हटलं तसं बेसिक आणि फुल एक्सपिरियन्स और समथिंग लाईक द ऑप्शन देऊ शकतो. बेसिक शुड बी वॉट शुड बी इन्स्टॉल्ड ऑन द डिव्हाइस, आणि फुलसाठी त्या केसमध्ये मे बी यू कॅन से की हां ठीक आहे, यू कॅन डाउनलोड अ लिटल बिट ऑफ एन एक्सटेन्शन पॅक और समथिंग लाईक दॅट. मे बी,
Yeah.
आय डोंट थिंक दॅट इज
Totally.
नेसेसरी, बट ठीक आहे,
Hmm.
मे बी. ऑल्सो अजून एक
Hmm.
तुझे म्हणलास विच आय फाइंड रिअली इंटरेस्टिंग, विच इज इट शुड ऑल्सो बी समथिंग वी कॅन चेंज. लाईक त्यामध्ये तीन मोड ठेवू शकतो, बेसिक अँड फुल फुल पॅक, आणि ॲपचं तुझे म्हणलास. सो MIUI फॉर एक्झाम्पल और सॅमसंगचं वन UI, दर्स अ लॉट ऑफ ब्लू टूल. अँड सॅमसंगच्या केसमध्ये बाकी फालतुगिरी कमी, स्वतःचेच त्यांचे ॲप्स ठीक आहेत. जस्ट लाईक ॲपलचं वेदर ॲप आहे, त्यांचं मेल ॲप आहे, त्यांचं ह्याचा ॲप त्याचा ॲप काय ते चावलं सगळं आहे त्यांचं. So there should be a base mode, like just nothing else, just the essentials.
Hmm. Exactly.
आणि that is ठीक आहे. You want the full experience चा by default तुम्ही सिलेक्ट करा, आणि तुम्ही म्हणा की if you don't want the full experience you can tap on the left option. ते पण ठीक आहे. It is a bit consumer restrictive. You are not pro consumer in that case if you're by default selecting your own option. पण I still understand, at least option असणं गरजेचं आहे. So
Exactly.
this is a really good idea, man. Like I cannot
Yeah.
I cannot explain how much I'm happy by this particular idea.
Yeah.
I have another question, which is
Hmm.
what,
Sorry.
like, how exactly are operating systems made? Like, not in detail,
That's
obviously, but like,
yeah, cool, cool. Like, what I will say is basically, an operating system has like three layers. It's like there's user layer, okay, where users literally like interact. Then there's a kernel level or layer, you know, where things really happen. Whatever you interact with your user level, that goes down and interacts with actual, a little, let's say, base level uh, software. I don't know what to call that anymore.
okay,
And then it goes down to hardware. Okay, that the kernel level or layer interacts with your hardware. That's like the simple, like,
I see.
most basic idea you can get about operating system.
Okay, so basically, like, I know this from a custom ROM viewpoint. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, a custom ROM, technically the word ROM is a misnomer. ते आता यूज करतात कारण की back in the day it was like ROM attach करून game devices ला वगैरे ROM attach करायचे. So it is
Yeah.
technically a firmware, right? So
Hmm.
firmware is basically the software installed inside your hardware or on your hardware, right? Which allows you to
Correct.
interact with your hardware. Then the kernel is what transfers your input to the hardware and back,
Hmm.
right? And then the hardware is
Yeah. No, go ahead. I want to know what it is.
so, and then the hardware is basically the hardware, what is physically available. And as far as I understand, these are the three layers: the firmware, the
Hmm.
kernel, which translates to back end from the to and from the user and the hardware, and then we have the hardware.
Hmm.
That's what I understand.
Oh, correct. Hmm. So in terms of Android, really, like, it's like whatever you are installing, the custom ROM, it's about the kernel. It's a Linux kernel actually. Android is basically a Linux kernel, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. I mean, it is same, like, as you said. It's just that it is not at the kernel level. It sits above the kernel level.
I see. So then, if I were to, like, we had this conversation recently, so that's why I asked. What would you
Yeah.
say is a way to maybe optimize Android rather than improve it? Optimize करण्यासाठी what would you suggest?
Optimize in the sense the architecture, or like,
Ha, like
I guess,
essentially, yeah.
yeah. Hmm. So we recently had this communication, me and
Yes.
Apurva, about uh, so I have this there's like a lot of different types of operating systems that exist. For example, there's monolithic kernel. So what we use on Android is Linux, and Linux is, by the way, monolithic kernel. And
Okay.
what it does is like, uh, so in an operating system there are user level and kernel level. As I said, they have their own spaces. And when it comes to monolithic kernel, basically, let's say Android, you have a single space which has both user and kernel space. So you
I
basically
see.
have both user interactions and kernel interactions in the same space. And all of that actually works as a single process, or as a single unit, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are a couple of things actually when it comes to operate an operating system. There are drivers. There's a lot of system calls happening down below. Lot of a lot of stuff. But
Yeah.
what I want to say is, when it comes to monolithic kernel, it interacts as a whole unit, right from user to
Yeah.
hardware. It's like an abstraction that doesn't have a lot of segregations.
I see.
Okay, that's something we use even till now. The Android is based upon that. But if you think about that, if you compare it with, I guess, iOS, for example, iOS uses microkernel. So microkernel is something which separates the units. As I said before, like there's a single unit.
Mhm.
What it does is there's a user level or user space or kernel space. So it separates these things into different units,
Yeah.
and even in these units there are different processes or different units like subunits or something. I don't know what you would call that, but that's the thing, it separates the functionality among different,
Yeah.
kind of components, and those components are working independently,
Yeah.
interacting with each other and interacting with your hardware.
Mhm.
And uh, that's what is amazing about microkernel. Why? The reason is the monolithic kernel is like, if you have some flaws or some problem in some specific component, and it is like literally serious, your whole system gets stuck, because your operating system is busy committing to that problem, that issue.
Yeah.
While when it comes to microkernel, your other components are still going on along with their own ways, their own processes. If you have some single component which needs to be taken care of, the operating system does take care of that parallel in parallel with other components, say, in like simplest terms. So that's about it. That's where I guess the smooth experience of iOS comes from. Even Mac OS is based upon microkernels.
I see.
I guess Linux is still monolithic. The reason, I don't know. When it comes to computer usage, I guess it makes sense. You have full control over your system, but from
Yeah.
the user experience point of view, I guess microkernel makes a lot of sense to me. At least that's my opinion. But I guess with the whatever I've said right now is something that cannot be implemented by someone in a out of the boom, because already we have Android and it has been growing like a lot. I
Yeah.
don't think anyone would want to replace that. But again, it's this question that what if we you know use some different kernel or create some different uh, architecture of kernel, that would if that would impact the overall usage. Because see, the overall storage and memory usage has been increasing a lot these days.
Yeah.
Apps have been having, as you said, so many abilities, so much processing is going on, so much computing. So I guess it's relevant to also optimize on the basis of what architecture you are using when it comes to operating system level.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I guess. Yeah.
Interesting. So
Hmm.
my question for this is, as you said, iOS and macOS वगैरह they use microkernel architecture.
Yeah.
Is it so that a microkernel can only be done if it's closed, or is there a possibility for it to be open source?
See, microkernel, I don't know if any open source, you know, I guess they might exist. I don't have an idea, but mostly open source operating systems are mostly like based upon Linux,
Yeah.
or like the monolithic architecture. The Unix, basically Unix is totally monolithic architecture based.
Yeah.
But if we really need an open source microkernel based, I don't know, we'll search the marketplace if that does exist. I don't know, someone who has
Yeah.
created that and hasn't had any focus by anyone. But if that doesn't exist, it has to be created by someone great really, and it will need a lot of dedication and a lot of time. Because see, we have come a long way right now, and uh, if you want something to compete with even iOS, even to compete with that, it will take a really long time again to come back to that way. People might do it, right? I have no idea about that.
Just to clarify, for the
Hmm.
audience, when he says it is going to take a long way for us to compete with iOS, He's not talking about the performance per se. What he's saying is the structural efficiency that the microkernel architecture has is much higher than the monolithic architecture that Linux kernel has. And in order for us to reach there, as you said, it would take a significant amount of time and effort from some random programmer who's like, yes, open source GitHub पे अभी project बनाएंगे, which is the beauty of the
Totally.
open source community, but it's also a big downfall, or rather a downside to it. It
But
takes
I
time.
guess even to develop that, it'll take good amount of resources.
True.
It comes to phones.
Yeah.
I mean, you need a hardware. You need to manufacture some good amount of hardware to test it out on. It can't be done by an individual unless he has good amount of resources, or he's some developer working in Silicon Valley with a lot of salary.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably that's a possibility.
Let's talk about the next topic, which is, in my opinion, another really beautiful topic to talk about, which is framework. Okay, so let's just talk about framework for a second. Framework is a company, it's a startup, a laptop startup, which has introduced an entirely modular laptop. Okay, so when I say entirely modular, I mean apart from the proprietary stuff that it uses. So, for example, तू motherboard वरती CPU, GPU असतो तुझा. So back before the recent version of framework, before that version, they had dedicated GPU नव्हता. It was basically integrated, जो काही Intelचा CPU आहे त्याच्यावरचा वापरत होते. So the disadvantage was that as a motherboard, it is one chonker, right? The complete replace करावा लागतो तुला. Now what framework did was they made sure to separate the CPU motherboard section into one section. They separated out the USB and etc. like port handling section. They separated out the keyboard handlers. They separated out the touchpad handlers, and all of this is user repairable. So you can use a regular single screwdriver, open it up, remove it by just removing the Lego pins, as generic everything calls them. ते काढून तू मदरबोर्ड नवीनवाला अपग्रेड करू शकतो. i5 वरनं तू i7 ला अपग्रेड करू शकतो in the same body. And
Wow.
that for me is what piqued my interest. But what's better is माझ्या लॅपटॉपला आता GTX 1650 चा डेडिकेटेड GPU आहे NVIDIAचा. Okay.
Yeah.
If I wanted to upgrade that, there's no way to do that. I can increase the RAM, I can increase the internal storage, पण मला GPU बदलता येईल. फ्रेमवर्कचा जो लेटेस्ट व्हर्जन आला आहे त्यामध्ये they have, and I kid you not, an entire section at the bottom which is a removable GPU section. So it connects to the motherboard using the same proprietary pins, but you can remove it from the laptop itself and upgrade it. Or if you don't need a GPU, you can just replace that module with extra storage plus a few fans or something like that.
Why didn't we get this during college days, dude?
I know, right?
Why not?
And what's even better is, आता आपल्या केसमध्ये ठीक आहे, because it is all entirely one thing. So we have माझ्या लॅपटॉपवर, for example, I have an HDMI, USB-C, 3 USB-A ports and a charging pin, right?
Yeah.
So this is what 5 ports in general. Now frameworkच्या केसमध्ये विषय असा झालेला, for the first generation there were just 4 modules. They also have modules on the side, so you can swap out different modules based on your usage. So atta samja, for example, you want an HDMI and a USB-A port on the left side and a USB-C and another USB-C on the right side, or another USB-A on the right side. You can swap those modules out as per your need. Okay. In the new generation, they increase the number of modules to 6. So now also they had to because they increased the number of modules, they had to remove the headphone jack and make it into a port, like a module. So now you can use a headphone jack module, push it in, remove it as per your need. So someone, a tech reviewer, put in 6 headphone jacks just because. But
Wondered that. Yeah.
yeah, so this is the power of modularity. आणि आम्ही मागच्या मी आणि कल्पेश बोलताना ही सगळी चर्चा झालेली की maybe it's not a viable business, but we realize that all of these modules are being manufactured by framework. So if they create a universal standard for these modules, they all connect. हे जे 6 modules आहेत साईडचे किंवा पूर्वी जे 4 होते, they connect to the motherboard through USB-C ports, high data transfer वाली USB-C. So anybody can create their own module and connect it, and you can basically like there's an extended storage module. तुला एक्स्ट्रा स्टोरेज पाहिजे असेल किंवा हार्ड डिस्क एक्सटर्नल जी आहे ती त्या मॉड्यूलमध्ये 256 GB ची SSD त्यामध्ये बसवून स्लॉट इन करू शकतो तू. आय मीन इट इज अमेझिंग.
Too damn good, man. Too damn good.
आय नो.
जस्ट मला एवढंच फक्त हे आहे की आय हॅव दिस टेन्शन की some noob doesn't just turn up some RTX 3080 and with a with a i3 processor and 2 gigs or 4 gigs of RAM. That's all I have a question of. I have a doubt on, like some enthusiasts might try to do that, right? An amazing configuration.
That's the beauty of this. If you are an idiot and you want to do this, you are free to do so, but everybody will call you an idiot. that is the only caveat.
Totally.
That is the only thing. So to anybody out there in the audience who is like, ha, i3 वरती RTX 3060 चालवणार आहे मी, no, please.
I didn't give you an idea, by the way.
Yeah, none of us. मी काय नाही बोललो.
We were just, we are not.
Well, I mean, we have to wrap up at this point, but I just have to say,
Yes.
one, it is insanely amazing that we were able to cover all of the main topics we wanted. Adi, two, and more importantly, I am so thankful for the perspective that you gave. Karan, to a certain level, I can be like, ha, मी हे वाचलं, इथं ह्यांच्याशी बोललो ते बोललो. But conversation, discussions increase the, imbibing or imbibement or whatever the काय शब्द असेल तो. Basically, absorption of knowledge increases with discussion and conversation. आणि I am thankful you, even though you don't really go on such platforms usually, or you don't publicly talk about it, you came on my podcast and I'm really happy for that. आणि while I know की हा मराठी पॉडकास्ट आहे त्यामुळे जास्त मराठीत बोलतो टेक्निकली, पण तू थोडंफार मराठी बोललायसच, त्यामुळे दॅट क्वालिफाईज.
हो. आय डोंट नो मॅन. आय मीन मला तसं होतं की मला बोललं नाही जात काही
Understandable.
टेक विषय असू दे किंवा काय असेल. डोक्यात कसं होतं की व्हॉट एव्हर यू रीड,
Yeah.
जे पण वाचलं जातं ते इंग्लिश मध्येच असतं आणि कायम त्यातच हे होतं, कम्युनिकेशन
ते आहे.
होतं.
ते जरा कंपार्टमेंट
I guess-
तयार झालेले असतात त्यामुळं.
Yeah.
Like, मी बोलताना असं थोडी म्हणणार
म्हणतो
की माझ्या संगणकामधला
हा.
ग्राफिकला काय जाऊ दे, प्रयत्न पण करणार नाही मी, जाऊ दे.
आय गेस इट्स अबाउट की कुठली लँग्वेज तू यूज करतोस विचार करायला पण.
True.
That's how you are easier. It is easier to communicate.
Well, this has been a really great episode of Tech Manch. Also, by the way, this was the
Yes.
second episode, and it's also the second time we'll be uploading an audio version of this, so people will be able to listen to you on Spotify and other podcast platforms. You can also watch this on my channel. This is Artman. आणि शक्यतोवर व्हिडिओ व्हर्जन बघितलं तर you'll get a bit more cues and clues into what we're talking about, such as सुजयनं त्याचा रिसर्च मेन्शन केला, तर त्याचा टॉपिक जो आहे त्या रिसर्चचा त्या संदर्भात काही ग्राफिक्स असतील, मी जे ॲज्युअर AWS बद्दल सुजयनं मेन्शन केलं ते स्क्रीनवर येईल. सो यू हॅव अ सर्टन अमाउंट ऑफ ॲडव्हांटेज ऑन द यूट्यूब साईड. Spotify is for when you are just walking or something like that. So you can do that. मी जेव्हा ऑडिओ व्हर्जन टाकतो तेव्हा देर इज लाईक अ रिव्ह्यू और अ क्विज इफ और सम फीडबॅक दॅट यू माइट वॉन्ट टू गिव्ह सो दी ऑडियन्स कॅन डू दॅट एज वेल. And at the end of the day, let me know if there's in the comments, let me know if there's anything that I can talk about. Already माझ्याकडे टॉपिक्स पडलेले असतातच, पण if there's some like सुजयने एक इंटरेस्टिंग पॉईंट दिला की आय कुड स्टार्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट सम रेलेव्हंट न्यूज. सो प्रिव्हियस वीकमध्ये रेकॉर्डिंगच्या प्रिव्हियस वीकमध्ये जर काही इंटरेस्टिंग झालं असेल तर दॅट कॅन ऑल्सो बी डन. आता आपण मंथली पॉडकास्ट आहे आपला, सो त्या महिन्यात काय जर इंटरेस्टिंग न्यूज झाली असेल तर ती बोलू शकतो. सो दॅट कॅन बी डन. सिमिलरली जर काही फीडबॅक ऑडियन्सचा असेल तर ऑलवेज ओपन. आणि या बेसिकली दिस वॉज टेक मंच एपिसोड 2. थँक यू सो मच for joining me, Sujay, and thank you for the audience to
Yes.
tune in and listen to us talk about, basically allowing me to talk to my friends and pass it off as content. Yeah, that is it. See you guys in the next episode.